In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel. It is July 22nd, 2018. We are back after a bit of a hiatus that was unintended, but it happened anyway. But we now bring you a recap on the NBA and NHL free agency, something that we would not have been able to do if we didn't take this unintentional hiatus. And so here we are.
Yeah, so let's jump into NBA free agency and see what's been going on since the playoffs.
The big news, obviously, LeBron James, he screwed the pooch in Cleveland twice now because he put all those big contracts into the organization in Cleveland right at the trade deadline in order to be contenders, and then left without the ring this year. So now he goes to LA. Cleveland's got Kevin Love and a bunch of scrubs, kind of like they did years ago. And no burning jerseys this time, but it screws the Cavaliers' future. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, but I'm surprised he took a 4-year deal, right?
Yes, 4-year, $154 million.
Yeah, I was expecting him to take like a 2-year, like something that doesn't tie him down for too long.
It doesn't surprise me fully, but something tells me like maybe I'm just ignorant and didn't pay attention to the contract enough. Maybe there's like an opt-out somewhere in that deal. It wouldn't surprise me if there is, and we just don't know it. But there's no more, like, going back to Cleveland now. Like, there's only so many times you can do that, and it means something. I think he's well aware of that, and I think that he's finishing up his career somewhere outside of Ohio. But what surprises me the most is for a guy who's so hell-bent on winning rings and trying to be the best, that he went to the conference that was more stacked. If he stayed in the East, he probably could have taken himself to more finals than out in the West. Like, do you really want to play Golden State in the conference finals every year and kind of taint your legacy a little bit by not reaching the finals? Because there are going to be years, as long as Golden State has what they've got going on, that LeBron's team won't make the finals. So this is a little bit, and it's no surprise that once LeBron went to LA, a lot of the veterans started taking deals to LA, like Rondo, Beasley, some of these other guys. So it's not a complete surprise that they weren't going to do this with the Lakers' existing roster from last year plus LeBron. There was going to be other moves, but I just don't understand why he felt the need to go out west and kind of sell himself short possibly in some of these upcoming years.
Yeah, but you had to know that people were going to flock with him.
Yeah, that's the LeBron move. It's happened since he went to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Miami was the prime example.
Yeah, well, his first stint in Cleveland, they built around him, but those moves were he didn't bring anybody with him because they built around him.
Yeah, but
so they could have done it to a smaller scale, but nothing to like what happened starting in Miami.
Yeah,
So
but
that's kind
Miami,
of where this all
you had
starts.
him, Wade, and Bosch, right? That was like the biggest.
Right, but Wade and Bosch signed their deals with the Heat first.
Yeah.
And then LeBron went. But I'm talking about like they put like Gary Payton on the bench there. Guys at the end of their, which is what LeBron did with like Richard Jefferson and like Channing Frye in Cleveland the second time. It's to no surprise that this happened. The Lakers weren't gonna do it with the team that they had anyway. But I don't know that guys like Rondo are really the answer to getting a ring now.
I don't think so.
And
that's why I'm kind of surprised that he signed a 4-year deal, right? Because you're locking yourself there. Or is he saying that he expects the Lakers to slowly ramp up in the people that they bring on?
I don't know. But what surprises me more is like for LeBron, someone whose legacy could be to be the best player in basketball all time, for him to go to an organization that really doesn't need like that piece that like we'll say like in 20 years was the greatest of all time, and he did it with us because they had Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Shaq. LeBron's just a notch.
Stars.
Yeah, LeBron's just a notch on the bedpost for like this one, and not to make it sound like it's a cheap move, but like your legacy kind of takes a hit if you're LeBron going to the Lakers, because the Lakers, kind of have done this enough times where they have. It's not like their reputation as an organization goes down the drain or anything.
Yep.
They've done this, 16 times they've won a championship. They're fine either way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the big one, and then the other big one for the most part was DeMarcus Cousins going to the Warriors. Went on a 1-year deal. I think a lot of teams kind of stayed away from him because he's a ticking time bomb kind of player. Gets a lot of technical fouls, has a great passion for the game, but he emits that passion in very cancerous ways. So for him to go to a team that kind of already had a really good chemistry and mesh to it, not exactly sure how that can positively impact the locker room. Maybe his passion is seen in a different way that other players in the Warriors organization can appreciate. I just don't understand. Plus, I don't understand the need for it. Like, you can only put so many players on the court at one time. Somebody's taken a role that eventually they're not going to be happy with. So
yeah, but I mean, if you're going to the Warriors or even like the Lakers at this point, you have to understand that you'd be taking a substandard role for you, because
but and I think he's a player who's in his prime. I don't think he's past his prime yet. He played a lot of years in a bad Sacramento team, but
yeah. But my problem with him is, again, like you say, he's just cancerous to his surroundings, right? So you can take it as he's like, even if he's in his prime, do I really want him out there all the time? He racks up too many fouls, technicals,
He's a taller Draymond Green, to be honest with you. Like he's not gonna kick anyone in the nards like Draymond Green did. But like the fact of the matter is, you have that many potential technical fouls on one court at the same time. Eventually, that's going to cost you some close games.
If I'm the Warriors, right? How much are you expecting him to play?
Well, if there was one position that they needed, I guess it is center. but because I don't see JaVale McGee being a potential starting center. And he played really well in the bench role. I'm not sure who they were rolling with this
Yeah, but
year,
I
to
mean,
be
they
honest
can.
with you.
I mean, I don't see starting center on that team being like coveted. It's they probably can split
Right,
time.
but
No
also
matter who
because
starts, they're going to play the same
yeah,
amount of time, in my opinion.
and how they run their offense isn't predominantly focused on a center.
Exactly.
So that's the other thing that where team chemistry comes into play. Is you had this system that worked because it didn't rely on a big man, and everybody was kind of content with that. But you have a DeMarcus Cousins who's been one of the number one or number two scoring options on a team all of his career, and put him in a system that doesn't need him to be that. It can flame up really good because the fact of the matter is something that's familiar is going to be like you expect it to be familiar or you expect it to happen because it's familiar, I should say. So if you put a dude who averages 20 points, 10 rebounds in a game every game for 8 years in a position where he now is getting like 8 points and 6 rebounds, he's going to be pissed. And I don't see a scenario where DeMarcus Cousins isn't that guy.
Yeah, no, I agree, but at the same time, don't you think that they have to have communicated in some way so both sides know what they're expecting?
To some extent, yeah, but I also think DeMarcus Cousins is like he got hurt and his injury is going to keep him sidelined till like January or
Mm-hmm.
something. So I guess like that's plenty of time for him to get the system without it affecting regular season play. I don't know. Maybe he'll kind of learn through practice, and he'll kind of get mentored by Steph and Clay and Durant and stuff. And again, with him being injured and having to see it on the court before he's actually a participant, he'll learn. But I don't see a scenario where he doesn't get healthy and then want the ball.
Oh, definitely.
Plus, don't
But we'll
forget,
see.
Durant is basically a 7-footer who's playing a small forward in that system anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like a play in the paint physical presence is needed there.
No, definitely not.
Not that Durant is going to be the next center next year, but it just doesn't really vibe well. I don't know. It's a risk that if there's any team that can take it, it's the Golden State Warriors because they have so much depth that if they have to like trade him at the deadline, they can, and they'll probably get a draft pick out of it because they haven't needed draft picks, so they have options with this move if it doesn't work out, but it's not going to be. They're not going to get like a really good, former All-Star player in a trade if they need to trade him because of the fact that he's a technical machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I do like what the Nets have done. In terms of free agency signings, they like just signed. They didn't have a ton of cap space. They signed guys to like really small deals and kind of filled their cap. But then they have taken on the bloated contracts of other teams. Like they got Kenneth Faried.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. They got rid of Isaiah Whitehead, who, I mean, he's a decent player, and I think the Nuggets just ended up waiving him anyway. But they're taking on some bloated contracts because in those trades, they also came with draft picks. So they're finally starting to learn to, like, stack picks. They've, I think, acquired, like, 6 draft picks for the next 2 years of drafts.
Yeah, but coming from a Nets fan, right? We've been rebuilding for how long?
Yeah, but they've never rebuilt through the draft.
Yeah, I know, because we traded it away for Paul Pierce.
Yeah, but now they're trading for the picks, which
Finally.
yeah, this is finally what it was supposed to be. At least guys aren't the Suns. They waived like 4 players. It opened up a ton of cap room, and then spent all of it on 1 year of Trevor Ariza.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then they traded Jared Dudley to the Nets
Yep.
with a pick. But Jared Dudley's a solid player, but he's I mean, he'll be a star in Brooklyn because like what he does is really like he shoots the corner three and he plays average defense, but he's a leader kind of player. So we'll see how that goes. A lot of stuff stayed the same. Like Carmelo Anthony, he decided to be a baby. He's like, oh, I don't want to come off the bench, so either trade me and all this other crap. So he gets traded to Atlanta, and Atlanta has no desire to keep him. So they bought him out for all of his $20 million. That's how bad teams don't want Carmelo Anthony's. They don't even negotiate a buyout. They just give him all the money that he's owed in his contract, and now he's left to walk. So There's that. Paul George staying in Oklahoma City, I guess I was kind of surprised. Like he's from California. I think a lot of people were expecting him to go to LA. The fact that he stayed, kudos to him for loyalty, I guess.
Yeah, but he got a pretty nice contract.
He did, and that's the thing is, if you stay with the team that you were on, obviously you can get a nicer contract. Yep. So that pays dividends to him. I just don't know that the Thunder are a team that, like, with all these moving pieces.
I think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're making it far.
Right. I think they've got too many moving pieces, and not enough of these pieces that they have are going to be enough to win a series against a Lakers or a Warriors. Because it's nice and all that you have a good point guard like Schroeder to come off the bench, who they acquired in the Atlanta trade. And obviously he will come off the bench unless he's going to play the shooting guard position because there's no way he's taking Westbrook's spot in the lineup. But outside of Westbrook and George, you still don't have enough talent to compete with these other teams in the West. So you're a mid-tier, like you're somewhere between a 3 and a 6 seed every year, which is fine for making the playoffs, but you have to know that your window is limited as Westbrook and George get older, and you really don't have the, barring complete injury collapses from both the Warriors and the Lakers, you don't have enough to make it to the finals.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's that. Dwight Howard goes to the Wizards, and he's becoming the NBA journeyman. It's amazing how many teams still want him because of the fact that, like, I guess they just hope that he's got something left in the tank.
But they're paying him, like.
Yeah, the NBA cap has gone up so high that, like, a veteran minimum is probably like $6 million. It's amazing how you look at these contracts and the money that they're making. Like, scrub players are making pretty damn good money.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Like, we have 2 pages of notes here. The smallest contract I see is Michael Carter Williams took a 1-year deal on this first page for $1.7 million. That's the smallest contract I see so far.
Yeah, all of them are really high.
Yeah, there are guys that you don't even haven't heard of. Let's see, Salah.
No, there's a 1.5 million guy on the second page.
Yeah, for the Mavericks, and I think he's been around for a few years. But like, and the smallest contract was Brad Wanamaker, who was in international leagues for a few years, and I'm very familiar with him because he went to Pitt, and that was back when Pitt was good. And he's probably played like the past 6 or 7 years overseas, and then the Celtics just signed him, and I was like, what the fuck is going on there? Like, nobody wants Pitt players in the NBA. And yeah, and
But that is a small contract for NBA money.
it is, and I think that's a 1 year deal with a 2nd year option.
Yeah, looks like
But
it.
if what was funny is when I went to Raleigh a couple weeks ago, my friend Matt, he was like, look, he's a big time believer in the Knicks because they have former University of Michigan players, like, and he believes that like fuck Phil Jackson being the president, or like rebuilding is like this is the key. Get University of Michigan players, and this will, create all the dynamic in the world that you need to win championships in New York because Michigan is New York.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah. And the other stuff, I don't know, Nick Stauskas. I don't know why I highlighted him, but he went to the Trailblazers. DeAndre Jordan, he finally went to the Mavericks, so I guess yay for him, and yay for the Mavericks organization that they didn't have to trap. The Clippers didn't have to trap someone in their own house this time to keep DeAndre Jordan from going to the Mavericks. The Lakers straight up cut Julius Randle because of all the deals that they had made, and he went to the Pelicans. Yeah, and then the Lakers add Lance Stevenson.
Rondo.
It'll be interesting. Oh, JaVale McGee is on the Lakers now, so scratch that part about him being the backup or the starting center for Golden State. He's going to be the snitch guy. He's going to tell all the secrets.
Of course.
Yeah. But other than that, a lot of people stayed in the same place, which...
Yeah. Not surprising. You can always get more money. So...
Yeah, but for a lot of 1 and 2 year deals are signed in this offseason too.
Yeah, true.
It speaks to the state of where the league's at, because that's kind of where it's at. Is a lot of guys are kind of coming full circle to the idea of I kind of want to win now, so they'll do this. Like, I'll give the team 1 or 2 more years to figure it out. But if they're not, I'm bouncing when, like, I'm in my prime. And because I think a lot of these role players want to be the guys that are on LeBron's team.
Well, see, my thought is they want to win, and they realize the best chances to win are on Golden State and on LeBron's team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think is why they open up their prime years when you're at your peak in terms of production, to be on those teams. Like, if you have a 3-year window to do really well, make myself available for that time. The only thing is, like, if they're not doing well, they're probably out of the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys are going to be in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see. But, yeah, it's been... I was not hoping, but I was expecting more big-time headlines for the NBA free agency than there were.
All right, fair enough.
So now, move on to hockey. Because, well, no, before we get to hockey, I was trying to think of a way to work baseball in over the past couple weeks. But with the All-Star break coming up, it was kind of weird. And then I just had, like, how funny would it be to, like, just do a podcast of the Home Run Derby? Because, like, in terms of audio, what can we do? Oh, it didn't go out. Oh, it didn't go over the fence. Oh, that one was smashed. Like, if you could see this, it would have been the funniest thing that we ever did and the most stupid thing. So,
that would have been hilarious.
But even more hilarious than that is how the Brewers absolutely choked in, like, the last 10 games before the All-Star break.
Yep.
And I don't know how, but the Pirates are a 500 team again.
Yay!
Mind-boggling shit. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna keep the faith for a while.
You know how that works out. Oh wait, it doesn't.
Yeah, and that is why whatever religious figure you follow allows you to drink alcohol. I don't know, but no. Hey, by the time if it's destined to be that they suck come September, I just hope that they are decent until September if that's the case, so I can ease into football season and be like, you know what? I don't have to see like it absolutely go down. Like I don't have to see the lowest part. Just I'll see this. I'll see the start of the slip, and then it'll be like, oh, Steelers game. So, and we have to start getting into fantasy football and football season too, which is going to be a lot of fun because we both play fantasy.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, back to the original transition. Hockey.
So I guess
Talk about big headlines. Woo!
Yeah, let's get the largest contract out of the way, or the most sought after.
Yeah.
John
Johnny.
Tavares went to the Toronto Maple Leafs for 7 years and $77 million.
Yeah, that was. I mean, look, this wasn't like LeBron watching 2010 or like his second stint as a free agent. Like we knew Tavares was. There were only a handful of teams he was meeting with and that were viable candidates, and some of them just didn't really make sense. Like the only two that made sense was if he was going to go to like a team like Toronto because that's where he was from or that was his hometown team, or if he was going to stay with the Islanders. So those were the two big ones. And when Tavares didn't like notify, there was a deadline to notify that he was.
No, so he could have gotten more money with the Islanders if he signed before the free agency date of June the 30th.
No, wasn't it July 1st?
No, it was June. It was like the day before. July. So you would have had to sign.
On our sheet.
He signed.
No, you're right. You're right.
He would have had to notify the Flyer, the Islanders, and sign with them the day before, and he could have gotten like I think the Islanders were offering him $88 million for same length.
Yeah, and the fact that he didn't notify the team at the deadline, I think, was.
Yeah, all the evidence you knew they were out. Once he got into free agency, it was between the Sharks and the Maple Leafs, like 100%.
Yeah, but then I think the Sharks kind of make some moves that kind of locked up. Like after Tavares was signed, obviously they made their backup moves, but like the Sharks, I don't feel they're an older team that I don't feel like we're as in contention for the next 10 years. As compared to the future in Toronto. So I think he took his best shot long term.
But you also have to realize he took a huge pay cut by going to Toronto.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
Not only was he offered less money, but the taxes are higher there. So you're making like on a $10 million contract, you're making like $1.5 million less than if you were in New York, if you're in New Jersey. New York is probably like only like $500,000 less.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, not for it wasn't a bargain for the Maple Leafs, obviously, because you work with a salary cap, but you know, it was a big deal to get him for less than his value was going to be, because really, they didn't have to overpay to compensate for that kind of liability statistic.
Yeah, they couldn't though.
The taxes.
That was the max they could offer.
Yeah, exactly. But they could have also like cut players too or something. But you know.
Well, I mean, that was the maximum amount of money that Tavares was getting from any team that wasn't New York.
Yeah. Yeah, no. But that's a big deal, because then, you know, Tavares goes back to his hometown team, and then they put out this picture on Twitter and all that stuff of him as a child in his Toronto Maple Leafs betting spread and stuff like that. And, you know, you
knew all that was coming out.
Yeah, no. I mean, there was going to be a reason why he went to Toronto, and obviously it was a sentimental reason that Long Island, New York can't provide. I
Hmm.
mean, we're talking the Islanders who are going to split their home games between two venues next year because they didn't bring in enough money at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn to be deemed profitable, and now they have to split, time in an arena that they haven't played in for like 4 years in an arena that doesn't really want them there. So there's a certain appeal to a team that's up and coming versus a team that, can't really even break the bank.
Yeah, but I mean, that's because Barclays Center is a terrible hockey place. Like,
Well, yeah.
have you seen it? Like,
Yeah,
this
they got
the
cars
court,
on the other side of the glass. Like
the
they
ice is
didn't
off
do it.
center.
Yeah. No, they didn't line that one up right.
Yeah, because they didn't expect anything but basketball to be played in there.
Yeah, and look, it's not like the Nets are the best team in New York right now either. But like, if you can't compete in terms of revenue with the Nets and the property itself or whoever is running is saying, "Oh yeah, you're not bringing in a profit," as compared to the team that wins like 15 games in a season, there's a problem there that
Yeah,
like
but
money
also,
can't fix
but
right away.
there's a lot that goes into that because it's not that the Islanders were bad. It's just you couldn't see the game from most of the seats, from a lot of the
Right.
seats,
And the value
and
of the ticket is not worth paying.
exactly. And if I'm going to see the Nets, I'm not actually going to see the Nets. I'm going to see who's playing against the Nets in
Right.
most cases.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I think the same could probably be said of hockey.
Yeah, but again, if I was to go and choose between Madison Square Garden and
That's
the
true.
Barclays Center,
That's true.
it's no contest, especially if I'm like coming in from out of town. Whereas in basketball, they're the same view. It's just which team do you want to see play against what?
You're right because as a fan, you're like, see the Islanders in a seat where, or see the team playing against the Islanders in a seat where like I can't see what's going on, or like if I'm a Metro Division fan and I know that that team's coming uh, back or like it or is playing
The
a handful
Rangers?
of. No, I'm saying like if I'm a Penguins fan and I know that they're gonna play the Rangers multiple times in Madison Square Garden, I'm more content with waiting until they go to play in
Exactly.
Madison Square Garden.
I
Now,
would pay the money for that
if I'm a
instead of the
fan, yeah,
Barclays.
if I'm a fan that, and I think they worked out the schedule so every team plays each other once home and away. But like,
At least.
say a few years ago when that didn't happen, and it was kind of lined up that like you didn't. So like, if you're an Anaheim Ducks fan a few years ago, like there was no guarantee that you were playing the Islanders and the Rangers both in New York.
Hmm.
So then that the ticket had some value to it to go to the Islanders one. But now that it's worked out that way, you might as well just wait for them to go to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, and like especially if it's from us, like why would I make the trip into New York City, even though I live like an hour and a half, 2 hours away
Right.
from it, to go see an Islanders game in which my seat's not going to be the greatest? Whereas I understand that tickets at Madison Square Garden are more expensive, but if I'm going to go all the way and watch a hockey game, I want to be able to see it and enjoy it, not
Well,
look over things for
well,
two
let's
hours.
also, like, to your point, let's consider the fact that, say you live in New Jersey, and you're an island or a fan of a team who plays against the Islanders or the Rangers. Uh, you're taking probably a train into Penn Station, and then you're paying another train to take you out to the Barclays Center. Is you're saving money just to take the train to Penn Station and not that second train or whatever. Because New York Penn Station is right there next to Madison Square. It's also a saving money move, and you pay a little
But
more
you're
for the
not saving
ticket.
money on tickets anyway.
Well, no, you pay a little more money for a ticket that has better seat quality than to pay the same amount for a bad seat in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So you spend the same amount of money, but it goes towards a better experience.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely spend more. I think you'd spend more money just because of pricing, but
because
you
it's
pay
the
for the
Garden. But
experience you get is
yeah,
what the major thing is there, and I agree.
yeah. But I mean, getting back to it, Tavares chasing his dream. He obviously wants to win cups, and I don't think he ever had any, you know, uh, hard feelings towards the Islanders. I think there's more hard feelings from the Islanders fans to him than there are from him to the Islanders and their fans, because the Islanders, they've tried to put together that contender team for a few years now, and that team has either missed the playoffs or at best got to the second round. So I think he saw that, like, the peak of being with the Islanders is like they had reached their potential of what they were going to be in his time there. Whereas now you have the young talent of Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and all these other guys in Toronto, and you see that the potential is growing.
Hmm.
And like he said, okay, let's try to maximize that and let me add to what that potential can be. And that move made more sense. I don't understand why the Sharks were, outside of being able to afford a contract to him, I don't understand what the appeal was for him to go there.
I don't
Because
know.
yeah, you have who is it? You have Brett Burns. That's fine, but he's getting older. You have Thornton. That's who I was trying to think of. He's signing 1 year deals like the past 3 years just to stay. And he's like pushing 40 soon, and like the talent that's on that roster
Yeah,
is
my
towards
thing
the
is,
end
if
of
he
their
was to go
career,
there,
let alone prime.
yeah, if he was to go there, he'd have to take I would call it a LeBron deal, but like a 2-year deal.
Yeah, he'd have to take the pay cut. He'd have to take a shorter deal, and he'd probably have to take the leadership role.
Definitely.
Eventually, because I feel like at that point in time, after one more year, I think Thornton hangs up the skates, and now it's Brent Burns' team based off of loyalty in the fan base, but in terms of talent, it's Tavares is like handed the torch when he doesn't want to have it.
Yep.
So, and then it's kind of like a scenario where it all starts to crumble. I think he kind of spared the Sharks from having to
Yeah, but
go
I
from
don't view it
playoffs to
as him
nothing.
sparing the Sharks. I see it more as him sparing himself from that.
I think a little bit of both, because if the Sharks banked on him for the future, then and he then left, then they're left with big holes.
Definitely.
All right, so some of these other moves. The
Yeah.
wildest move, I
Let's go
think.
to James Neal signed a
Yeah,
5-year deal.
I think this was a wild move just because. I mean, Calgary at best is a mid-tier team that just spent big-time money for a guy who's on the back end of his prime.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's too bad because I think in his prime it was worth way more than this.
In his prime, I think he signed for $36 million over 6 years with the Penguins.
Yeah, but that's again like salaries have been inflating over the years and the past couple years more quickly than most.
And
So
that's fine. I just don't see that he's only depreciated, you know, like in terms of average value, like 250,000 a year.
yeah, but I mean, I don't see it as a bad move. He proved in Vegas he could still play.
Yeah, I don't know that in a
And
team like
they
Calgary,
have
he's the filler piece though.
yeah, but they have like the Flames still have Gaudreau and
Hmm.
Monahan
Yeah,
and some
it,
other pieces that
they made some trades.
yeah, so I mean, I don't see James Neal as a bad pickup.
I
I
think for
mean,
the
we
right
can
price, it's a good pickup.
disagree.
I
I
just
do
don't.
think he was signed for a little too much,
Yeah,
but I
that's
don't
what.
see it as like super like so much.
Yeah, that's my big thing is I think that he's a good pickup, a good addition to a mid-tier team, a team that can make the playoffs annually, but I don't think that for the price tag he brings to the table everything that comes with that price tag.
Oh yeah, okay,
So, that's just
fair.
where I'm at. Um, let's see. We have another Subban brother staying in Canada because Jordan Subban signed with the Leafs. Riley Nash goes in to Columbus. Let's
Nemesnikov stays with the Rangers.
Yeah, I, kudos to them because they're in their quote unquote rebuild, and they are keeping some guys around, but some guys they're not. And it's weird because I just don't expect Lundqvist to be there much longer, but the fact that they keep bringing guys back tells me they're gonna try to bank on him for as long as they can.
Yeah, but I don't see him like he's. No matter what anybody says, he is like his skill isn't what it was, and
Yeah, and it's only gonna get worse.
yeah.
I don't understand why they aren't going to try to hear offers on him and try to trade him while there's still a
I
medium level
think
of value.
I think he's done too much for the organization for them to do that.
No, I can understand that. I think that
Because you're also in New York, right? What would the
right.
fans do if you just traded Henrik Lundqvist?
It depends on the fan because New York sports fans, it takes a very sophisticated fan to understand the business behind it. I think a lot of fans are very much what they hear is what they react to.
Yeah, but that's equally as true in New York. Majority of the fans they hear that they just traded Lundqvist, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what they react to. And it's not going to go over well.
I think it would have gone over well more if they hadn't traded Ronta away a couple years ago, because they would
But
have had a
I feel
next in
like
line.
they got what they needed. Like, they got the best they could for Ronta. There's no way.
No, yeah, I was just saying like if they were to turn it over and pass the torch, so to speak, uh, if they had a better backup, then fans would have been more accepting. At least
Yeah,
aware
but
fans who
there's
understand the depth chart.
yeah, but there was they got so much for Ronta, and
They
rightfully
did.
so.
They got prospects.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with that move, but also when they made that move, it was basically saying we're sticking with Lundqvist until he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I mean, it showed two things, and they got a lot for Ronta.
Yeah, but do you think it was a smart move?
I
I
don't
mean,
see a
obviously,
problem with it. See, the thing is, even though Lundqvist is never going to be what he was, he's
Mhm.
not the problem, and he won't be until he retired.
Right, and obviously Nemestikov isn't like the make or break deal that keeps any player
But
who's been there a long
Nemestikov
time
is
there.
still young,
Yeah,
and he has room to grow, and he could be a great player.
right.
So
It's an optimistic move. You
I
hope
don't
that
have a
it
problem
pans
with that.
out.
Actually, I think he's a great young player.
Hmm
I don't think it's optimism. I think he'll get better until his prime. So
Okay, well then so dare I say you build around players like him then.
yeah, I think he can become like one of your like 3-person core.
Hmm Okay, yeah, and I agree with you. It took some convincing to get there. I don't know. It's hard to believe management saying that they're in a rebuild and then for them to kind of be stagnant in free agency. They didn't. Maybe that's what to expect when you really are committing to a rebuild that will happen through a draft. But most of their free agency moves were re-signing.
Yeah, but they have a couple of prospects in Russia that they're trying to get over.
Mm-hmm.
That I know of. They have one goalie prospect in Russia who's supposed to be really good.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, at least in hockey, I feel like it's a lot different because we have so many feeder leagues into hockey that we don't know where prospects are coming from, even if it's not the draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I see their rebuild. I don't agree with some of the moves, but I do think Nemesnikov is a great piece that could be one of the big pieces for the future.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Let's see what else we had. Paul Stastny going to Vegas.
Yep.
What's your take on that one? I mean, obviously him and James Neal don't do the same thing or even play the same position, but it's an interesting move. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
no,
one
I
of the
have no
more sought
problem with
after
it.
free agents.
I have no problem with that one. I think he got paid like he deserved
Mm-hmm.
because he wasn't getting paid where he was before.
And he's been a deadline piece the past couple years, it seems like.
Yeah.
So now, hopefully, he finds a home and kind of can stay there for a little while.
Yeah.
Cam Ward going to the Blackhawks. I mean, it's a small signing, but it's a big
I think he
name.
needed to get out of Carolina,
Yeah,
definitely.
he did. Because, not to say that he hasn't seen some decline in his game, but the Hurricanes haven't gotten better around him either.
Yep.
It's very hard to stay the course and say there's going to be better days ahead for 10 years like he did after they won the cup and then just didn't make the playoffs for like 10 straight years.
Yep.
It's very hard to be like, well, if I have something left to give, I might as well give it even if it's in a backup role with a team like Chicago. But in Chicago, he could start there because they've had goaltending issues in the past couple of years.
I don't see it, but I mean, he could, but he's going to be a backup there first.
So Crawford?
Yeah, but they're going to let Crawford stay starting.
It'll be interesting to see because I think that Crawford's kind of had up and down years the past few
Yeah,
years.
but
I
at
think
worst,
it's his
it's going to
job
be
to
a 1A,
lose.
1B.
Yeah, I think it's his job to lose, but I can't tell you that he won't lose it.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
they didn't make the playoffs last year, and not to say that goaltending was the only reason why, but it's a sport where bad goaltending is a big factor.
yeah, but I don't think it was bad goaltending more than it was bad defense.
Yeah, no, you're right. Plus, their defense is aging.
Yeah.
But what was it? Didn't they trade Marian Hossa's contract to like the Coyotes or
They
something?
traded it somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, which Marian Hossa, who's like already announced his retirement because like his health condition doesn't allow him to play anymore. So someone's taking on his contract for like the last year, which is kind of weird unless like there's
you can throw him on LTIR.
Yeah, and sometimes in sports you get like those insurance policies that pay out to the team and make that an asset. I just don't know that that's been publicized that it's there.
No, you'll definitely be able to throw him on LTIR.
Okay. I think the Blackhawks kind of didn't have that spot. Didn't they have someone else who they were gonna
I have no
Sharp
idea.
or something? Maybe.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I thought they had like someone else who was kind of like vying for that spot, or not vying, but like was headed to be in that spot. I feel like maybe it was like Patrick Sharp or something.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
It could just be cap space, you know?
Yeah. No, you're right. Because like Hossa was signed to a big contract way
Yeah,
back when Chicago first signed him.
That's the other problem. So like my two problems with the Blackhawks were big contracts and really aged defense.
Mm-hmm.
Not even aging. They've already aged.
Yeah. And like guys who were like they brought him in hoping to get the scraps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, the one signing that we went over that I want to touch on is Kovalchuk signed to the Kings.
Right, and that one happened a few weeks ago. Like
Yeah,
that was one of
all
those
these
weird
happened
ones.
quite a while ago.
Well, no, wasn't Kovalchuk like the first? Well, didn't that one kind of like happen before free agency started?
No,
Because he was an international player.
Yeah, it happened like just before the draft.
Yeah, and he went to the Kings, and the Kings also re-signed Doughty for a big hunk of money too. So
Yeah, but he's locked up for the rest of his career, basically.
yeah, so they're operating on this like 3 to 5 year window, hoping to get everything out of these guys that they can.
Mm-hmm.
But after that 3 to 5 year window, it's all going to be gone.
Yeah. Another signing that I want to touch on though is John Moore signed with the Bruins for 5 years and $2.75 million a year. So
Mm-hmm.
he got he got a lot of term. Probably not as much money as he would have gotten per year if he took a shorter term.
Yeah.
But I mean, what are the Bruins going to do with this guy?
It's a tough call because if there was one team that had a lot of depth,
It,
it was the Bruins.
the Bruins.
It didn't show in the playoffs in terms of how they scored, but like
Defensive
if the,
depth, though, is what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
if there's yeah, but if there's again one team that kind of had it and didn't really need to put big money on it, like if they needed to put a smaller money contract shorter of 2.5, I think you said mil a year.
2.75.
Yeah, so if they spent like 1.25 on a defenseman to like play like bottom pairing, then like I would have understood that more than this move,
Yeah,
at
because
least financially, because they didn't need to spend more than that.
but also like 5 years. Like these guys, the Bruins have so much defensive depth in
Mm-hmm.
their system, from what I know, that one of those guys, like you literally now, I think on their roster have like 7 defensemen that can make the team at pretty decent at contracts that are quite a bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not including their prospect pool of defensemen that can come up in the next like 2 years.
Yeah.
So, as much as like good on him for getting his money or his term in this case, I'll say,
You
what
don't
the
think
heck are
it?
the Bruins
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah. They're probably. It might be one of those moves where like in a couple of years he's gonna get traded,
Looks
and
like
it's
it.
probably not gonna be for the top value because like, you know, it's a lot to take on a guy with 3 years left
Hmm.
on his contract. Say he lasts 2 years, uh,
Now
it's going
he's
to
young
take
enough
some
that he'll
buying.
last the 5 years, but
Well,
it's a
yeah, I
really
don't know
weird
if it's going
contract.
to be for the Bruins.
Yeah,
It depends on how the prospects play out. If
yeah.
there's more upside, then yeah, it makes sense. But
Hmm. But I mean, if they trade away more, even though he's a not that bad of a cap hit,
mhm,
it's like who's gonna take him for 3 years, and what are you gonna get back for it?
right,
Not much.
because hockey's a game with system fit too, and
Yeah.
if he's not a good system fit, you can't play that game for 2 more years of like, hoping he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Um, let's see. Jay Beagle went to the Canucks.
Grabner went to the Coyotes.
Yeah, what do you guys, or what do you think as a Devils fan of how the free agency turned out? Because
So
it seemed like a lot of guys left.
yeah, well, so we are expecting Grabner to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Maroon was a little up in the air. It was like maybe he'll leave, maybe we'll sign him.
Right.
Otherwise, like we signed Coleman back to a 3-year deal. We signed Nason to a 1-year prove it deal. And those are like two of the people that I wanted to keep. It would have been great to keep Gibbons, but I don't think we were going to keep him.
Yeah, Brian Gibbons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a scrappy player. I feel like he's never gonna be at that like next contract with the same team level because he's kind of bounced around there.
Well, no, but he signed a deal for like, but he signed his first like, you know,
Big boy contract.
NHL level deal,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, deservedly so. It's like it would have been great to keep him, but I think we just needed room for our prospects.
As long as like as a Devils fan for
And
you, I would hope that you guys don't suffer any kind of setbacks
yeah,
from
but
this.
my biggest problem is there was no defensive move made.
Yeah.
And not even like a free agency signing, like nothing. Because right, we have Mueller, Vatanen, Green, Severson, Lovejoy, and Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our 6.
Not
Right,
a bad six.
we have Santini down there, who's another defenseman. He played like half the season with us. He's ready to come up. But so my problem is maybe we should have dealt one of these guys in our top six, maybe like Deal Severson or something because we need another number one defenseman because like right now it's Vatanen and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like along those lines coming along. But as far as being like not being too active here, I'm okay with it. As much as I would like to see a deal, I don't want it to be like these bloated contract kind of deals. Like Henrique recently signed for $5.8 million a year or something like that. Uh, good on him, but the Devils were never giving him that type of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So.
Or like Jack Johnson, because
Yeah.
like that was stupid on our part.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm as much as I would like to see us make some moves in signings or trades or whatever. I'm okay with the fact that we haven't.
Right, a little more
I
wait and see
understand.
how they pan out.
Yeah, I understand why we haven't.
Yeah.
As much as I would have liked it.
I guess if you think about it, it's kind of like a front office believing in the young guys to develop too, and putting a little loyalty in them, which isn't a bad move if you're trying to kind of gel the two, the front office and the team. But at the end of the day, it still is a business, and if one person doesn't perform to expectations, they could be sold for, or not sold, but traded for a reduced return. So it's a risk reward. But if you're in the position that the Devils are, where you're seen as an up and coming team, it's more potential reward than it is risk.
Yeah. Plus, like we signed like our. One of our prospects is coming to the AHL next year or next season. Then we signed the guy from Russia, who we drafted like 2 years ago. And we just drafted our defensive prospect this year at number 17. So I understand, but I would have liked to see something to make me a little bit more hyped this offseason.
Yeah, no, I can understand. So who do you think, in terms of what team you think benefited the most from their free agent moves?
So, see, that's kind of hard because like there are certain moves I like, and then there are certain moves I just like look at and say, "What?"
Yeah, it's a tough one. And a lot of teams make moves that are kind of low moves. I don't think that the Blackhawks made bad moves. I just don't know that they're.
But I don't think they're
It doesn't
like the
make
best.
them. Yeah, they're not the best. I think, arguably the team that made the best move is just Toronto, because of.
But I think that's just one signing, right? I don't like as a full on like if they signed Tavares, right? That's great.
Right, but they also didn't lose a lot in the offseason.
Yeah,
like I'm not talking in
you
terms
have
of
to
just
understand
free agent
that
signings.
You have to understand that like Tavares is going to change the dynamic of their team so much, right? Because he's now the number one winger. Oh no, he plays center. So he's now the number one center, and I think their line of Matthews line and their in Toronto last year was doing great. So what are you going to do with them? Like, as much as on paper that wins, what impact does it have on the team in the short term, which is going to be like the first quarter to half of the regular season?
This is, for hockey, it's hard to tell winners and losers, and maybe now I regret asking my question a little more, because it's a game where the most minor signings can reap the most benefits.
But like the one team that we haven't talked about much aside from Paul Stastny is the Golden Knights, and they're finally getting like multi-year deals in because of when they did their entry draft, a lot of them are on 1-year deals. So now they're
Right.
signed, like they signed Stastny to a 3-year. So really, the biggest maker in all of free agency so far is probably the Golden Knights, because they have the ability to give long-term contracts now, and it's not those
Right.
2-year, 1-year.
Right, and they still hold a lot of the leverage because of the draft picks that they were able to acquire last year to take on those expiring contracts. So they don't. Not only can they sign these deals and make them a contender after the year that they had, making it to the finals, but they can also develop without having to get rid of guys in trades.
Yep.
So it makes them deadlier now and later. The way that they kind of did it, where a lot of the roster was, when the expansion draft happened, was kind of like, that's kind of what fueled the like they won't win a lot kind of talk. But now that they proved that wrong, they get a bunch of stuff working in their favor.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as as far as all like trade free agent winner right now, it's like the Maple Leafs, because they got the biggest signing, but that's
Right.
not always the best thing, right?
Right, but I was also basing it off the fact that they didn't lose pieces either, or at least not notable pieces to free agency.
But again, like my problem with that is not losing a notable piece means that you have to change so much, because of really star pieces coming in where you already had Matthews, Marner, and all these other guys.
Yeah. And I think that they probably could have benefited from a goaltending upgrade. Anderson's okay, but he's not a high caliber top two, he's not all-star tier, and he's not like the tier below that where it's like borderline, but still gets it done every night. He's like a tier or two beneath that. And he's done good for himself in the opportunities he's had in the past year or so. But I'm not sure they wouldn't have benefited from someone else.
True.
I just don't know that the goaltender market was strong enough where they could have gotten a starter.
And we'll see. Also, I wanted to say we'll see with the rest of free agency, because arbitration hearings are going on.
Yeah. Some guys are going to get paid big money, and some guys are. You never know what moves can be made from arbitration.
Yeah, I mean, it's the arbitrator that really decides the contract.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, if a team doesn't want to take on that contract long term, then, that could fuel some trade talk. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, and also I wanted to bring up, you see how we looked at the lowest contract in free agent signings for the NBA, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the NHL, there are multitudes of contracts at $650,000.
Yeah. There have been like 30 or 40 of those deals that are below what NBA minimum transaction for free agents were.
Yeah, so I mean that just shows you the difference in money.
And shows you it's weird that like that's kind of how it is, that a game that's growing like hockey is competing in the same calendar spots as a game like basketball. Basketball, for the past few years, you've gotten everything you expected out of it, but nothing surprised you. Whereas hockey is a game that requires luck, and you can see the difference, which is kind of unfortunate as two hockey first fans, but hopefully hockey gains a little bit more steam in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week we'll start talking about baseball for real now that the All-Star break is gone.
Yeah, and depending on what happens, maybe we'll talk some football too.
Yeah, let's. I mean, I think we should give ourselves some time before football talk, because that'll lead off with fantasy talk, I feel like.
Right. I mean, it depends on what's going on, because we can't talk hockey and basketball forever, and with baseball's not going to fill a whole show, so we'll have to find something.
Yep.
Time will tell. The sports media will write its own book on that one. But, yeah, we'll catch you guys next week.